Today, the Kissimmee Police Chief and myself are here to provide an update on the death investigation on 13-year-old Madeline Soto, who was reported missing back on February 26th of this year and discovered dead 4 days later. I know the community and the media have been anxious for us to give an update on this case, and this is an opportunity for us to do that. For the last 7 weeks, 7.5 weeks actually, the Kissimmee Police Department and my office have been working closely to go over every piece of evidence that we could gather in this case. It was a voluminous and a lot of evidence to get through during that time, but we were successful in getting through it and making sure that we were able to provide the best case we could. Today we're announcing that Stephen Stearns has been indicted by the grand jury on first-degree murder for the killing of Madeline Soto. We presented the case to the grand jury. They returned an indictment earlier today.
Hi everyone, I'm Dawn. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for visiting with me today. So today's video we are going to discuss Stephen Stearns. He has finally been charged with first-degree unaliving of Madeline Soto, capital. So it is potentially a death penalty case, which I know everybody wants that. Now, before I dive into the video, I want to talk about when I use things like CSA, SA, DV, CM, PDF file, code words, things like that. It's because, and most YouTubers do that, it's to protect our channel and it's to help push our video out. Otherwise, if we use those words, YouTube doesn't like those words. We can't talk about serious issues in the world, yet we can watch super morbidly obese people or extremely skinny people literally unalive themselves on camera, and they get tons of money and tons of attention. But you know, these channels that are actually trying to talk about real issues plaguing the world, we're always kind of pushed back on, you know, and it's unfortunate that we have to censor ourselves in that way, but we have to. So I don't want you to be here if you're uncomfortable with me doing that. So, you know, you don't have to be here for that, but it's just something most channels that discuss these topics, they do this. So, but yeah, so Stephen Stearns has finally been charged with Madeline Soto's unaliving. We know that her, the manner of her unaliving was MURDER, and we know the cause was DV. Now people say, oh, well, they didn't release the cause. They say they're not releasing the cause of death, but we know the cause of death is DV. All we know is that it was DV. It could have been any number of things. There are a multitude of ways people can be unalive with DV. And of course, that's domestic V word, okay? For those who don't know, which it's weird to me that people don't know that, because it's even called DV and like special victims unit. They go, oh, this was a DV, you know, so. Sorry, I had to have a sip of my drink. But, so anyway, let's rewind to the beginning. For those who don't know, Madeline Soto, who had just turned 13 years old on February 22nd, celebrated at a birthday party on February 25th, Sunday. The next day, she was supposed to go to school, never showed up for school, and she was reported missing by her mother's family. And a couple, or like I believe 1 or 2 days later, Stephen Stearns, her mom's boyfriend, was arrested because they had accessed his phone and found some very disturbing images of things he was doing to Madeline. And then a couple days after that, her body was found in a wooded area, and not even a very heavily wooded area, just kind of a, you know, I believe there's a field there. I've driven by there a few times, just because, you know, I've just been around that area before. But yeah, and then so for the last 7 weeks or so, we've been waiting for the police to charge someone with unaliving her. And so now he has 60 SA charges, child SA charges against him, of varying things like images, you know, what he's actually done, things like that. And yeah, he was charged with lewd and lascivious acts. I think 8 of those, 5 SAs against a child under 12, which is capital S battery, and then 40 charges of possession of images of the S performance of a child, and which it was confirmed a couple weeks ago that all of the images were of Madeleine. And each charge is for 10 or more photos. So photos or images. So it was at least 10 for each charge. So with those 40 counts, at least 400 videos and images of Madeleine being essayed by this monster. And I read the affidavit, and it is gruesome. It's anything you can imagine doing as an adult, like things you probably wouldn't do, but anything you can imagine, he did to her. And now he's charged with that, and then also her unaliving. And, you know, praise be that has finally come. But a lot of people are celebrating this. Now, I understand it's a relief that we finally have an unaliving charge for this, and we're moving towards some justice for Madeleine. But let's face it, it's never going to be justice. There's no such thing as true justice when a life has been lost or a life has been destroyed. And he destroyed her life, and then he ended her life. So there's not going to be any true justice, because after all is said and done, she's still gone. She's just gone. And so I just feel like there's no real justice. And I wanted to talk a little bit about because I've seen a lot of ramblings about it on YouTube, and I don't think people really understand. So, and I've mentioned this many times before, but Governor DeSantis signed legislation last October 2023 that would make capital S battery against a child under the age of 12 a capital offense, meaning, well, I mean, it is a capital offense, meaning they can get the death penalty. The perpetrator can get the death penalty for those offenses. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, he can already get the death penalty for what he's already done, you know, not including the unaliving of her. That is up for debate. They can certainly say we're going to seek the death penalty, but it will be argued probably until his natural death. Now I don't think it's going to be so much of an issue now, because he's been charged with her unaliving. Probably will be found guilty of her unaliving. And I feel pretty good that my state will seek the death penalty on him. But if we're just talking about the charges prior to the unaliving charges, they can seek the death penalty. Okay, the governor signed that in the legislation. But legislation was signed after the fact, like after those offenses were committed. Now, someone had left a really weird comment. They just worded it weird, that I'm as sick as he is if I think that he wasn't doing that to her on her birthday. I didn't say that. It was really weird. But it doesn't, anything he did to her after she was 12 years old, that isn't punishable by the death penalty. That doesn't fall under the umbrella of the death penalty. It was anything he did to her, any S battery, capital S battery, prior to being 12 years old that he did to her. And because those took place before the legislation was signed, it's going to be argued that it's unconstitutional. They can't sentence him to death for things he did before legislation was signed. So hopefully I've made that clear this time. Do I think they will seek the death penalty in the unalivened case? I absolutely think that. They sought the death penalty in the Casey Anthony case. Of course, she was found not guilty. I think this is going to be a very different situation. And that's one of the reasons why I think it took so very, or what we think, it's not really not that long for a murder investigation, but I believe they were careful. They wanted to make sure they had plenty of evidence because they don't want to see another Casey Anthony situation. It wouldn't matter. He's never going to see the light of day again because the information found on his phone, all of that points directly to him. He's never going to get out of that. But we do want him to go down for this unalivened if he did it. And, you know, come on, we all know he did it. And yes, I do believe they're going to seek the death penalty. And they didn't say that in the press conference, which I am going to play for you in this video. And I showed a clip at the beginning also. I believe that they will seek the death penalty. Now, I don't want the death penalty for him. I don't want the death penalty for him. I want them to sentence him to life in prison and then put him in the most hard-ass, butt-kicking prison in the United States, which I believe is in Colorado. Release him in the general population and whisper in the ears of the most vile criminals there what he's done. That's what I want to happen to him. Because the death penalty, it's too good for him. It's too easy for him. He deserves to suffer. He deserves to suffer. He deserves to feel nothing but pain every minute of every day for the rest of his life. And what they need to do, they need to not only put him in a prison in general population and tell people what he did, they also need to have doctors around to revive him, to heal him, so that he can live through it even longer and have more done to him. The death penalty, just our version of the death penalty, you know, the humane death penalty, that will never work for me. I don't want that. I don't want that. It's too easy. It's such an easy way out. And I know a lot of people believe in a heaven and hell and all that. I don't believe in that. I believe once you're dead and you don't know what the hell is going on anymore. I want him to suffer. I want him to suffer immensely. And if that makes me a bad person, then it makes me a bad person. But at the end of the day, I give a shit about children. And that's going to bring me to another point too. I want him to suffer. And he's not going to suffer on death row. He's going to get 3 meals a day, a bed to sleep in. They're going to treat him like a person. And he's going to be protected. And that just isn't good enough for me. And he's going to get the last meal, whatever last meal he wants. I wonder what Madeline's last meal was. Maybe birthday cake. Her last birthday cake. He needs to be released in the general population in the most horrible prison you can imagine. and they need to have doctors there to revive him and to heal him when he gets too fucked up to go on, and then they need to throw him back out there. He deserves that, and that's the least he deserves. He needs to suffer for what he did, and he needs to suffer greatly, and I'm not sorry for saying that. Now that brings me to something else. I am aggravated by a lot of people who are just, I think they're as sick as he is. There are people who I feel, just by the way they talk about it, and they're just so gung-ho, like, yeah, arrest him, charge him with murder, yeah, these cheerleaders. Like, it's great if you're cheering for Madeleine and for justice for Madeleine, which justice, whatever, but it's another thing when you're getting off on it, because what that is showing me is that you're glad this type of thing happens to children, and you're glad it makes national news, and you're glad you get to hear it. You're glad children get R-worded. You're glad they get sodomized, and oops, that might hurt my channel. And you're glad that they get unalived, because that makes your sanctimonious asses feel like, I've never done that. I've done the bare minimum to be a decent person. I'm better than Stephen Stearns. And yeah, if you've never done those things, you are better than Stephen Stearns, okay? Congratulations, you've done the minimum to be a decent person. You don't hurt kids. Great. Good for you. And of course, this isn't going out to my viewers. My subscribers, people who comment on my videos, y'all are the real deal. You have hearts, you express yourselves, and you have kindness in you. And I can tell that you care about these children. Madeleine, Sebastian, Harmony Montgomery, Audrey Cunningham. There's so many of them. It just escapes me. Welty, Kensley Welty, which is what I was going to talk about tonight, but I will still talk about it tonight, but not in this video. But it's just, so the people who are watching my videos and talking with me and stuff, y'all are the real deal. You are genuinely good people. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about those people that get on their Twitter or X or whatever and be like, oh my God, I'm such a good person. I've never R-worded a kid, and there are people like that. There are other YouTubers who literally, like, they'll never say, oh my God, I get off so hard when kids get hurt. They'll never say that, but you can read it in their behaviors. You're like, oh, thank God, we got this to talk about now. Yay. I get to rub it in what a great person I am. And that's not what this should be about. This should always be about helping kids, and it's a shame. Anyway, I'm going to throw in the rest of the press conference here. It's available all over YouTube, but I just wanted to throw it in here in case you didn't see it somewhere else. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to everyone later. Now here's the press conference.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. Today, the Kissimmee Police Chief and myself are here to provide an update on the death investigation on 13-year-old Madeleine Soto, who was reported missing back on February 26th of this year and discovered dead 4 days later. I know the community and the media have been anxious for us to give an update on this case, and this is an opportunity for us to do that. For the last 7 weeks, 7.5 weeks actually, the Kissimmee Police Department and my office have been working closely to go over every piece of evidence that we could gather in this case. It was a voluminous and a lot of evidence to get through during that time, but we were successful in getting through it and making sure that we were able to provide the best case we could. Today we're announcing that Stephen Stearns has been indicted by the grand jury on first-degree murder for the killing of Madeline Soto. We presented the case to the grand jury. They returned an indictment earlier today. There has been some questions as related to the length of investigation. I just want to let you know again that my office and the Kissimmee Police Department have been working vigilantly in making sure that we had every opportunity to get every piece of evidence that we could. I want to thank the Kissimmee Police Department and their tireless efforts. They've done an amazing job in the heavy lift that we've asked them to do, as well as the prosecutors that have been assigned to this case and making sure that we got every piece of evidence reviewed and gathered in this case. While death investigations usually take around 5 to 6 weeks or longer, we were able to get this one done relatively quickly and get the case to the front of the grand jury, like I said earlier today, to return the indictment against Mr. Stephen Stearns. The death penalty in this case, we have not decided to what decision we're going to make in that case. We're going to continue those discussions going forward, and we'll let you know again when we make that decision as to whether we're going to seek the death penalty in this case. I want to thank the grand jury for their hard work and their efforts in making sure that we're making this first step in seeking justice for Madeline Soto, for her family, and so the community can have closure in this case. The defendant will appear at initial appearances, I believe probably the next day or two. Then the case will proceed down its normal path, and we'll try to keep you abreast of how the case is moving, as well as you probably ask us questions to make sure that we are providing that proper information to keep you abreast of how the case is going down the normal path of the criminal justice system. I'd like now to introduce Chief of Police Betty Holland, and for her to provide comment.
Thank you, State Attorney Mr. Bain. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank the investigators and the other agencies that assisted us in uncovering the evidence to move forward with this case. We know this case has gained significant public attention because Madeline had just celebrated her 13th birthday and was just a child. The evidence shows an individual that was entrusted to keep Madeline safe made calculated moves to dispose Madeline's belongings and place her body in a wooded area before she was ever reported missing. For the 4 days following her disappearance, the entire community was actively looking to find Madeline safe and alive. Tragically, on March 1st, Madeline's remains were found. Our detectives have worked tirelessly to piece together the events leading up to Madeline's disappearance and death. With the collaboration of the State's Attorney's Office, we prepared the case for the grand jury that was heard today. The grand jury determined that our department secured enough evidence to obtain a first-degree murder indictment. We appreciate each grand jury member for their careful consideration. We want to thank the diligent work of the State's Attorney's Office, the Medical Examiner's Office, and our other law enforcement partners who assisted with this investigation. Your expertise and dedication were instrumental in uncovering the truth. The indictment signifies a crucial step forward in our quest for justice and a testament to our commitment to honoring Madeline's memory. We will now take questions. Right, I'm going to defer to the State's Attorney.
Good afternoon. Although an indictment has been returned this afternoon, it is still an open and ongoing criminal investigation. So much of this information cannot be disclosed until Mr. Stearns' attorney, if he does so, elects to participate in discovery, and then all of you in the media know how to go about seeking information through public records.
Was there anyone else in the house who you figured out that
Not that we've uncovered. State Attorney?
Again, all questions about the facts of the case are not subject to disclosure because of public records laws at this time. Once his attorney participates in discovery, then you can make public records requests through your normal channels as you do in other cases.
What is the status of the investigations in regards to the bullet? Something you can share about it?
At this time, the only person being charged is Stephen Stearns. And again, this is not over. There is an ongoing investigation to uncover more evidence, and therefore we can't comment. There's going to be the same response on any question about the facts of the case. Through the facts of the case.
What factors have to be considered before you decide it's going to be a death penalty?
So with any death case that is reviewed by my office, when it's determined to be a homicide, we have to look at the statutory aggravating factors that are laid out in our Florida law. Once we've determined that we have sufficient evidence to prove those factors to the proper evidentiary standard, then we had to have to talk about whether this is a death penalty case. And that's a discussion that we're still going to be having for the next couple of weeks to make sure that we're making a legal decision that's appropriate in this case.
Leading up to this, have there been any discussions with Mr. Stearns, considering there's so many other factors there with people you guys are looking into? Has he decided to participate in your investigation?
I'll leave that for Mr. Will.
Cannot comment on whether Mr. Stearns has been doing anything. He has counsel. And as far as plea offers, no, there are no plea offers made on the open case. You can address that question with the indictment that should be on the clerk's website if it's not already.
I'm going to have to defer to the state's attorney. Sorry.
Again, any question about the facts of the case, it's going to be the same answer. Once his attorney participates in discovery, the public records laws change, and you all will be able to get a lot of that information. As far as the 60 counts that are already filed against Mr. Stearns, that is solely involving Mr. Stearns as a defendant. Not to those 60 charges.
Oh, sorry. It's the family
And we're
working with the
working with the
investigation.
investigation.
It's the family working with the investigation.
It's an ongoing investigation. Can't comment on who's working with us.
Okay. This will be the last question. I'll let you get that in. What was it?
It's facts of the case. Can't comment on it.